Always used to lay you clean up the messes. Down on my knees, thought I couldn't stand up on my own. Turns out sometimes you're stronger alone.
So what's up, YouTube and podcast peoples? I'm just coming today to talk to you guys, have a little chat about what's been going on with the podcast and the YouTube channel a little bit. Most notably, for those of you who listen to the podcast only and you're not really engaged with the YouTube channel, you might have been wondering where the podcast was there for a few weeks. But for those of you who are on the YouTube channel, who subscribe and watch, then you know that I was actually out protesting the local regional conventions of Jehovah's Witnesses. And so I wanted to get on here a little bit, have a little chat about what that was like, what came from it, some of the behind the scenes stuff, why I did it in the first place, how you can do it too if you want. We'll also talk about some of the reactions that I got, not only while I was out there, but from some PMOs who happened to be present at that particular convention. But I know for a few of you at least I know one person reached out even. There was a little question of what was going on with the podcast. Is it on a break or something like that? And the answer is absolutely not. I've been doing this regularly since 2017 when I started this JW life, and I guess the early summer of 2017. So I'm not one to take a lot of breaks. In fact, I've just pretty much ramped up how much content I've produced ever since that time. So, this year, even been doing things weekly. But as far as what I was doing at the beginning of June, I was going to Evansville, Indiana. There were 2 consecutive weekends of regional conventions of Jehovah's Witnesses being held there. And I had the bright idea suddenly that I wanted to go out there and do a one-man protest and see what that would be like. I had a unique idea as far as what that protest could be, and we'll talk about all of that. But yeah, so anyway, I went out one weekend at the beginning of June. I went on a Saturday, and I had a really busy week, so I drove hour and a half, 2 hours to Evansville, Indiana, in order to head up the convention center there. It's called the Ford Center, something like that. So that's where they hold their conventions. And I drove down there so that I could hit the evening session. I wanted to just try it out and see what it would be like to even do this protest. And then I knew I also had the following weekend where I could come back more if I wanted. And what I ended up doing was driving down there late on Friday, staying Friday night in a hotel. Shout out to Evansville for super expensive hotels. I think it was like $200 a night for not some great hotel. It was just some kind of crappy Holiday Inn. But I guess there's just not a lot of hotels there, or the witnesses took all the available rooms, so the rates were up for everything else, but it was not cheap. But anyway, we stayed there on Friday nights. Then following the day on Saturday, I went Saturday morning and protested, and then I went Saturday in the evening and protested. And then we stayed Saturday night because we were both exhausted, and came back early Sunday. We thought about maybe doing something in Evansville, but honestly, Jenny and I were both really tired. It was hot out, just didn't really feel like doing anything, and came home. So, Mike, why'd you go out and protest? Why would you do this? Honestly, with everything that I do, there are many reasons, and sometimes there's not a reason in particular. I like to push myself outside of my comfort zone. I like to see what happens, to experiment in ways. I can't always go into things knowing exactly what the fruits of that labor will be. I have some views on activism, and I have some views on protests in particular that signs are fine, and I'm not knocking what anybody wants to do, but you can just not look at a sign. You can just avert your eyes, move on. There's no impact there. And for myself, I wanted to see if I could do something different, something that was also maybe more in line with who I am, what I do here on the podcast and such. And so I wanted to try out some new ideas. I wanted to push myself. Can I go to the convention where I grew up, where I'm going to see people that I know, that know me very much, potentially even my mom, my brother and his wife, my sister and her husband, and apparently they have children. I don't know. I've never met them. But can I go into that environment and be me? Can I go and say what's on my mind in front of all of those people? And how would that make me feel? What would the benefits or possibly the drawbacks of that be? And so I just wanted to see what that would be as well. Um, I also wanted to see, of course, I want to make an impact. I mean, you're never going to make an impact of any sort sitting on your couch. So I want to go and can I shake somebody free, so to speak? Not. Let me make it very clear. I do not think that I was there to wake people up. That I was going to have the one magic thing to say that suddenly people would walk into the convention and say, "Oh my God, this is a cult. I'm going to leave." That's ridiculous. That's absurd. That's not how waking up really happens for most people anyway. But if they're never exposed to anything outside, if they shun people and they don't know what the other side thinks or feels, then it's easy to dehumanize us. And so my goal was to go and humanize us, and then they'll take that wherever they take it. That's not up to me. It's not my responsibility. That's on them. Another reason that I went is that I know that there are people who are going to that convention who are PMO and physically and mentally out, people who don't really want to be there, but they're faced with losing so much if they leave. And I think it's encouraging to them, and apparently was, we'll talk about that later. I think it's encouraging to them to see that somebody else from the outside who's left is out there doing something. It makes them feel good, makes them feel seen, heard, validated in some way. And so that was also another part of the reason that I went out there to do this. Um, as well as passersby, you don't know who's walking by who might have observed this and what their thoughts may have been, especially as I played some fairly damning things about the cult at times that I'm sure if you were walking by, it's not going to make you think highly of Jehovah's Witnesses and how they move through this world and treat people. And I guess finally, I mean, not that this is literally a list of everything that I think and feel, but I guess finally I would just say that I do this, I do the carts, I did these things. I just kind of wanted to show you guys, to show XJWs in general, that Jehovah's Witnesses have no real power. I mean, they do have power as long as they have your family, and I understand that. And they have power in that they took all of our past. So I'm not one of those people who walks around saying, uh, don't disassociate, you're just giving them power, because they have power. And I acknowledge that, and I'm not going to live in denial of that, not at all. But I'm going out there to directly confront it, and I want you guys to see that the the impacts of it all are kind of a lot in our head. Again, there's the family impact or people that we miss, whatever. But they're just people. They're just some dudes in suits. Now they're not even in suits, right? They're just people. Uh, we were taught to give them such reverence and respect to, you would never interrupt anything they do, though they have no problem interrupting what everybody else does in this world, right? They have no boundaries, but you're expected to give them reverence like they're some precious thing. No, they're not. They're just a bunch of people, a bunch of misled people. And I have compassion for that. This is one of the reasons I went out there to do that. But I also want to show you guys that there's nothing to be afraid of here. When you stumble on a cart, when you see Jehovah's Witnesses, or whatever, they have no power. I literally walked among them playing a message that they don't like. What are they going to do? Nothing. Nothing. They have no power. So I hope that that's something that you can take away from this as well, is that you don't have to cower, you don't have to be scared. And I'm not gonna say I wasn't nervous. We'll talk about my experience, but ultimately, what are they gonna do? There's nothing. So one thing I wanted to do is respond to some of the comments that I got, I guess, on some of the YouTube videos or outside of those videos as well, from people who just sent me messages, people who ask questions, whatever the case may be. Um, one thing that a lot of people seem to notice was, at least on, let's see, what was it, the day 3 video, I think, where I was by the parking garage. Jenny was holding the door for some of the people and brothers and sisters who were going by. And as she was doing that, people would often thank her for what she was doing. And it is a reminder to some degree that Jehovah's Witnesses are, and this is going to be very nuanced, nice people, right? Like, they were polite. They said thank you. A few maybe made a random comment, whatever. So they were polite. But polite only goes so deep. Polite can be very performative. I mean, aren't they even told, when you go to these conventions, be super nice to everybody you meet, be nice to the servers at the restaurants, be nice to the people who are waiting on you or helping you at the hotels, because this is our appearance, the way we appear to the world, and we wouldn't want to bring reproach upon Jehovah's name. So while genuinely appreciated their politeness. And even as I was walking up and down sidewalks at times, seeing people, I'd smile at them. I was nice to them. They were nice to me for the most part. And so, the politeness is cool. But at the end of the day, none of them want to have anything to do with me, right? They would shun me. At the end of the day, those polite people are guilty of shunning their own families. They may shame the LGBTQ community. There's a lot of beliefs that they have in the way they see the world around them. They're not racist, but I like to call them human racists, because they're really just kind of waiting for the death of everyone around them so that they can be happy after Armageddon, and they're totally cool with that. So how nice are they really, right? Like, what other group of people, if we weren't associated with them at one time, and if we weren't a part of that, because it hits home, if they're not really nice, if they're not really kind, if they're kind of monstrous in ways, then were we kind of monstrous too when we were a part of it? Yeah, we were. Yes, I was monstrous in there at times. I was a jerk. I didn't treat people well. I didn't see people well. I was judgmental, kind of an asshole. Yeah, we weren't that nice when we were in there, by nature of the beliefs that we had and the way we moved through the world. So while, like, they are polite, and that's awesome, and I'm glad that they are, and there's people there that I had relationships with, and I'll talk about that in a minute, that I liked and would be down to hang out with to some degree. At the same time, the way they would treat me would be much the opposite, right? So how kind are they really? They're only kind if you're of their kind. They're kind if you're Jehovah's Witnesses, or they might be kind if you're JW adjacent and they think that you are a potential convert. But otherwise, are they really that kind? And speaking of kindness, I also kind of thought that some of the comments that I saw, some comments that bothered me a little bit. One in particular, it was Pride Month. I did this in June. I included some audio from some people who left Jehovah's Witnesses who are in the gay community. I even played an audio clip of a horrible talk that Jehovah's Witnesses give about the gay community. And it's just, I don't know, we're in 2024. Obviously not everyone is, but it's just really ridiculous, the absurd comments that a few people made on YouTube. And of course I removed those comments. But just the hatred of the gay community, or the saying that I'm gay, we get it, you're gay, whatever. I'm not, but if I was, that's okay too. But just like grow the fuck up. How old are you? Well, you're running around trashing people for that. I mean, like, it's just mind blowing that there are still people out there that are doing that. And I don't know, it's disappointing to see those. Like, you clearly have no argument because that's the only thing you can do is like take a shot at somebody's sexuality. That's just pathetic. It's so ignorant, shows such a lack of insight into what it is to be human or the breadth of this world. It's just so narrow minded and dumb. It's so reductive. And that, that was something I wanted to address. And then on the other side, also, I got a lot of comments about just pointing out how, I'll just say how fat the brothers and sisters were. There were people just saying like, "Oh, look at the obesity, look how heavy they are," blah blah blah. That's kind of equally reductive, right? These people are depressed, they're anxious, they're in a cult, their lives are not good, and I don't know. It's just taking easy shots at them over their weight, just or their appearance in some way. Again, kind of reductive. There's way better things we could talk about, and it's really sad that people are struggling there. I mean, I know I was at my heaviest when I was one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I was honestly eating a lot of feelings, and I was very depressed, kind of gave up on myself in certain ways as well. Again, I know this can, someone's weight can come from many things. And so I'm not trying to reduce that either to just that. But I just thought that some of the comments of, got to do better than that. That's too easy. That's too easy. Taking easy shots like that. I don't know. It just doesn't do anything to raise anybody's level of discourse. I also had people who reached out to me who wanted me to sue the organization or the brothers or whatever because, as you saw in some of the videos, they would follow me around everywhere that I went. But I mean, the reality is this is public, man. You have the right to do that. I do have, when I go out with my cart, I'll post up next to Jehovah's Witnesses at their cart, right? And I know they don't like that. And sometimes they'll choose to leave. They'll go to the other side of the street. I'll do it once, but what I'm not going to do is follow them around everywhere they go. I mean, I certainly wouldn't be out there following two women or something. That wouldn't feel right. So I'm not going to do that to them. But it is interesting that they had absolutely no problem literally assigning many people to follow me around everywhere that I went. Jenny even heard them on the radio or on their phones or whatever they were using, like talking to each other, like he's going this way, or even about her. Jenny was just there to record it. This was a one-man protest. Jenny was like, "Hey, that's cool. Good for you. You have an idea. I'm not so sure I can do that one," which is fair. She doesn't have to do anything she doesn't want to do. She came to support. She came to record. I was going to just go do it by myself. But yeah, that could get to harassment or something like that to some degree, just because they were following me all around. But I mean, in the end, none of that matters. That's not why I did it. I didn't do anything that I did to try to, get them to catch a charge or something. I was there for many reasons that I've discussed. I'm walking with them through these same public sidewalks. And if they want to follow me around, I'm okay with that. I really am. I'm not intimidated by it, as you could see on the video. My wife, if she had been doing that and they were following her around, I would probably feel different about it. I understand the optics of all of that as well. But at the end of the day, the sidewalks are public. They have a right to walk up and down them. And I can't say that they were making me feel unsafe because I really kind of laughed at them and played with them and had fun. Uh, it was just an interesting experiment into the ridiculousness of it all. Now let's get into some of my observations, my personal observations. I mean, first of all, I was seeing people that were from the Louisville area that I haven't seen in probably 20 years, from Southern Indiana, where I live today, where I haven't seen those people for probably at least a decade or so. And it was sad. I'm seeing these people that I knew. I mean, the brother who gave our wedding talk, there's a sister who says hi to me in a video. Her husband and I were really good friends. We used to play basketball together. We sat here in this very basement, just right over there. And I had a TV and a futon, and we'd play video games and stuff together. We had fun. Shout out to Paul if you're watching. I'm sure you're not. But lovely people. Of course, obviously, again, with these boundaries that the cult puts on this that creates some awfulness. But it was nice to see some of those people, but it was also just sad. They're still stuck there. They're doing the same thing. They're listening to the same stupid talks, the same things. I mean, there's nothing new other than what you get to grow a beard or wear pants. Or now they're renaming some of the things around shunning. Just dumb stuff. It's so boring. These people just look so beat coming out of the convention. And it's not something that, I mean, I'm not poking fun at. I feel sorry for them. It's just really sad to see these people doing the same things, listening to the same message, being brainwashed year after year at these stupid conventions where what, man? We're still here. The end has been imminent for 100 and something years. We're still here and they're still lapping that stuff up. And it's sad. It's really sad to see. As far as the reaction I got from the people that were around at times, I mean, a lot of people, you watch their heads whip around and, something would catch their attention and they would listen for a minute. But I think that the reaction, the only real reaction I got that you could really see in people. Jehovah's Witnesses were pretty good at being pretty deadpan about all of this, but it was just the angry shaking of the head, just the absolute anger that anyone would make them listen to something other than what they wanted to listen to, or that would show them another side of it. There was zero empathy for the young lady crying about her pictures being gone because she was shunned. The other young lady who brought a knife to the Kingdom Hall because she wanted her blood on their carpets because she wanted them to see her pain. There was no empathy for that. Don't know what's going through the heads of most of the people. Again, most weren't showing much reaction. And you only saw a very small fraction on those videos of the people that walked by, but because we were out there a lot longer than that. But it's just that hatred, that hatred of apostates. They call us bitter apostates. I mean, they are so mad when somebody does something like this. And it's just really sad to see the lack of humanity, that they were upset, not that this was happening to people, not that people were in tears or were being hurt. They were just sad that they would ever have to see it. I mean, isn't that what shunning's for? Just go over there and be sad. I don't want to see it. It was just kind of gross. In other warm and fuzzy news from these kind people, I was really I wasn't taken aback by it, but it was just interesting to see up close their controlling nature. It was so fascinating to see these brothers, and just the way they had the streets shut down and they were out there like directing people by the light. Like there was a stoplight there. Red, yellow, green. Most people know what those colors mean. But Jehovah's Witnesses, like the brothers, they would let you walk on the walk sign. They would stop you on the don't walk sign. Like you're not smart enough to figure that out. And it was ridiculous. And just part of it's like the theater in the way that they're out there with their little vests on and everything, directing traffic that's really literally at times being directed by the very lights they're standing right by. But they just have to have that control. And then the way that they had to have control by trying to block me, by trying to follow me. There was an instance where I think they were trying to block me and kind of corral me on the sidewalk. They're And it's just this oh, what am I looking for? This facade of control. Like, bros, I'm out here with the speaker. You three morons standing in front of me is not going to stop anybody from hearing it. Not only that, but because you're following me around and you're making a big deal about it, it's like the Streisand effect, right? So it just drew people in to look, well, what are these brothers doing? What are they trying to protect us from? What are they guarding? Why are they forming a line around this one guy? It was just a really interesting thing to watch up close. And all the security they had, I mean, around the entire downtown area. We even walked in from our hotel the last day, or the last Saturday PM session. And as I was walking up, they had some attendants sitting out in front of the building. And I recognized one of them because I had seen him that morning. So I waved to him and just trying to be friendly. Like it's all so ridiculous. It's silly. And then, the next thing I know, they're watching me. I've gone down to another block. They've gone to the edge and they're watching me. And then they're, posting up attendance at the next corner or the next corner. It was just so much energy devoted to one dude. I was the only person out there. Jenny had the camera. So much energy, which honestly makes me just want to go out there next time with a whole bunch of people with speakers, just to see how many attendants they have to try to corral or get together to control the dangerous situation. In fact, on the last video that I did, there were some brothers standing behind me, whatever they were doing, and we overheard a sister come up to one of the attendants, one of the brothers, and say, Caleb's inside waiting for you to relieve him from his post. And he was like, well, I got called to like a special duty out here or something. And it was just like, poor Caleb. He's still stuck in there. I don't know how long he had to wait. I guess probably until Jenny and I left. But do they have such a shortage that they can't swap people out? Or why do they have to devote so many people? It was just ridiculous and easily defeated. But I guess they felt good about what they were doing. It's just, it makes about as much sense as what they're teaching from the platform. It's this fantasy, this illusion, and that's really all they have to offer. One thing I wanted to bring up was that after the last Saturday we were there, Jenny and I went to this Italian place. Shout out to Little Italy in Evansville for some of the best spaghetti and meatballs I've had in a long time. But we're at the restaurant. We walk in. Now, Jenny and I, we had been out doing our protest thing, right? And it was hot. Felt for the brothers who were wearing, I guess maybe the attendants were wearing full suits. I don't know. I wasn't paying that much attention to them and their dress. But it was hot. Jenny and I were both very tired. I had a long week before even heading out there. And so we just went back to the hotel. We chilled. We cleaned up. And we didn't really want to run out to the restaurants immediately. Witnesses are going to go from the convention and fill up a lot of the restaurants. So we went out. It was, the restaurant closed, I believe, at 9 p.m. their time. We got to the restaurant about 7:30, 7:45, I think, PM. Now, note that a lot of the people who are there are coming from the Eastern time zone because Evansville is kind of right there on the line for Central. And so it's even later for those people. And it really was for us too. 7:30 their time is 8:30 our time. And so the reason I care or mention the time of everything is just it's so late in the day for a lot of people, and those witnesses had been at a convention all day. But we walked in, and we were seated at our table, and I looked behind us. I'd seen some witnesses, some groups, and my heart just absolutely broke because the first thing I saw on one of the tables was a little stuffed animal, a little eagle, I believe it was. And then I looked, and there was a little stuffed dolly, little doll. And I think then I saw a little girl holding a Minnie Mouse doll. And I guess it was her slightly older sister that had the eagle and was sitting there coloring. I mean, here are these little kids, and they were there, I believe, with their dad. I'm not sure that there was a mom in the picture at the convention. I'd actually seen them earlier. This poor dad was holding one kid by the hand. He's holding the other one in his arm. It's hot as can be. He just looked absolutely miserable. And so here I now I'm at the restaurant hours later, and these poor little kids have probably been up, what, since 8 o'clock at least that morning. It's now going on. I mean, they didn't leave till at least 8:30 their time. So it's going on 8:30 their time, 9:30 if they were from the Eastern time zone. And these kids are still up, just being forced to be around all these adults doing, I guess we'll call it adult things. I mean, in that they were there just having, adult conversations, but just it's hard to call it adult things because the whole convention and just everything was so ridiculous, but whatever. So anyway, these kids are being forced into an adult world that they don't belong in, and they're being made to be there all day. This is like a 12-hour day easy for these little girls. And it just bothered me a lot. It's something that I haven't really, I guess, seen since I left. I was that kid. You were probably that kid at some point. And it's just so messed up. Children shouldn't be exposed to 3 days of that garbage. And then, they're getting in trouble or being taken out and whipped if they don't, if they can't behave like an adult for all these hours on end at boring conventions. That's just no way to treat children. I would just straight up call it child abuse, to be honest, in some ways. That's not how you treat kids. They're not adults. And Jehovah's Witnesses treat children like they're adults. An interesting thing to come from all of that is that I did have, I'll just say several PMOs reached out to me. Won't give any details, but let's say some were minors and some were adults. But they had seen me out there and found me on platforms and reached out to me because they knew that I was there. These are people who may even have may have positions in the congregation, or may just be publishers, or, well, I don't know. I guess they still have publishers. They don't really just check a box now, but it was interesting to hear from some people and to just hear that it really meant a lot to these individuals to see me out there, to know that they weren't alone. I was very much encouraged to keep up the good work. And I really, really hope that these people who reached out can escape someday and find freedom. I mean, let's think about it. You have people that are like, it's almost like they're on the witness protection program, so to speak. They're like underground in this cult. They can't tell anybody how they feel. They're reaching out to me, a person who's clearly an apostate, and absolutely terrified to release any identifying details to me, which I'm not pushing for, but just the level of fear that those people have that they might be found out, that they have to be physically in, even though they're mentally out, because of the mental and emotional and sometimes financial extortion of the cult if they leave, the relational extortion, the social. It's just horrible. I feel for those people who reached out, and I just hope that they know that there's a beautiful life out here, um, to be had if you work for it. And I'm sorry that you're so stuck right now. It's just that's just the worst, and I'm sorry that you're there. But I am glad that me being out there brought you some sort of joy or made you feel validated in some way. And I think again, even if that's the only reason we ever did something like this, that's enough. But that wasn't the only good thing to come from it. Uh, so I'll talk a little bit about the personal impacts that it had, uh, and a little bit about why I did it like I did, I guess. Uh, I chose to do this using audio. That's the format that I use already. I chose to take this speaker out and play something because, again, you can't stop that, right? Unless they're all going to just put their fingers in their ears or they're going to wear earplugs or something. I'm not really sure what they're going to do. So, my message was very, very heard. My speaker was very, very loud. And I was also very, very mobile. And I chose to go mobile because you can't stop that, right? I'm not pigeonholed to one place. I can walk. Again, these are public sidewalks, and I have as much a right as anybody else to walk up and down those sidewalks playing what I want to play, just like other people can walk by playing music. We ran into people doing that while we were out there. So I took advantage of the opportunities. I thought it through, and I know that they blockade people with signs at times, and they try to intimidate people. But again, I was just one person. So if all you all want to intimidate me, you want to put 10 people on me, I don't care. You're just going to look stupid for putting 10 people on one person. So the more the merrier. Assign all you want. I don't care. I went into this with a lot of forethought as to how I was going to do this. The message that I played was clips from people who've been on the podcast and some poignant moments in their lives and experiences with Jehovah's Witnesses. Again, I played those to humanize us on the outside to the people on the inside and to help them see, because that they felt a lot of the feelings that the people who were on my audio had also expressed. And so I don't know. I figure might do better to try to bring us together than to push us apart. And so that's where I kind of started with my messaging. As far as the impact on me, I mean, I think on the first video, day one, uh, right before I start to walk with the first group of brothers and sisters, I'm not sure, but I believe that you can hear me audibly kind of like inhale or exhale. And this is a real moment of me being like, crap, time to go now, right? Because, yeah, I was nervous. I was doing something new for the first time among a bunch of people that I know, playing a message I know that they're not, most of them are not going to like. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know exactly what the response is going to be. And so, yeah, it is intimidating on its own face value. I'm an introvert. A lot of people probably don't realize this. I'm not some extrovert just because you see me. I am not energized by social situations. They take from me. They deplete me. If I hang out with people on Saturday, then on Sunday, I'm probably not doing much because I'm exhausted mentally and emotionally. So I this was not I don't want anybody to think like, "Oh man, Like, it must just be so easy for you. No, courage though isn't the absence of fear, it's feeling the fear and doing the thing anyway. So I felt the fear, I took my audible gasp, and then I walked. And I'll tell you, by the time I ended that first walk down, whether it was adrenaline or what, I felt amazing. And I just knew I was doing something good. And it's, again, I experiment, I push myself into uncomfortable positions because you're never going to grow in stagnation. So I don't always know what's going to come from this. And it's not like I walk around with a lot of, I don't walk, I go out with my carts, right? You see me do those things. Though I still get nervous. If I haven't done that for a while, the first time I do it, I got butterflies. But you'll, I'm a human being like anybody else. I did get nervous, but again, I don't walk around being triggered by Jehovah's Witnesses all the time. I've done a lot of work on myself over the years. I'm immersed in this community daily. I coach roughly 6 ex-Jehovah's Witnesses a day to help them heal. We talk about things. I am immersed in this community all the time. It's honestly a price I pay to do the things that I want to do, which is to help people and to do things that matter to me. Because I can't just walk away from it if I choose to do these things. So it's a sacrifice I'm willing to make. But again, it's not like I have sit around with deep feelings that are at the surface all the time about this. I've done a lot of healing. But still, it's hard to quantify. Walking among the people that are your, I guess you would say, abusers or bullies to some degree, uh, that are the people that you once knew, that are shunning you, that have turned their back on you, and to be able to walk among them and to say, yeah, this is me. This is who I am. You get to be you, and fine. But I also get to be me, and I get to be me right in your midst. No fear, total owning of who I am and my feelings about all of this. And to be able to do that among people that I know, uh, it was just, I don't know. I told Jenny it was kind of like I'm not much of a gamer. Actually, I'm very little a gamer, but it's like playing a video game and, beating the big boss, beating that world or the whole game or whatever. It just, to be able to do that felt really, really good. And I was so hyped. I was so hyped when we were driving back from the first one that we had to, we ended up using that time to work on a project together for the next weekend just to get my mind like into some busy work because I was maybe a little too hyper about it. I was running on adrenaline or whatever. And that kind of helped pull me back down to earth a little bit. But it was just, I don't know, it's like going into the ring with the boxing ring with your bully and kicking the shit out of them. I don't know. It felt good. It felt good to be able to stand up and say, yes, this is me. And I don't care what you think of me. I don't care at all because I love me. I know who I am. And your opinion of me doesn't matter. And it doesn't. So let's say you want to do this yourself. You've been inspired. Well, I'll put a link in the description below to the exact speaker that I use. It's quite loud for a Bluetooth speaker. I think it was like, I don't know, 50. I don't know. Prices go up and down on things. It could have been $50. It could have been $80. Could have been 40. I don't know. It's been some time. It's a really good speaker. I had bought one for Jenny. She's a circus aerialist, and so I had bought one for her to practice her aerials and such, and she could listen to the music in the gym that she works out at to practice. And so I got one of those for this and just hung it from my backpack and walked or stood. So there's nothing stopping you from doing the same. As far as just a few little tips. It's a public sidewalk. It's a public sidewalk. You can walk up and down that sidewalk. You can stand on that sidewalk. You cannot impede the flow of traffic on that sidewalk, but you have the rights to walk up and down that sidewalk. Go to the ACLU website, look up, know your rights, know what is allowed and what is not. In some areas, if you're going to do a formal protest with a bunch of people with signs and such, maybe you do need to get a permit or something like that. Again, I was just walking up and down public sidewalks. So, make of that what you will. Let's see, was there anything else? Again, I walked with them, I led them down, I stood in places. So I did a bunch of different things as well. And I had somebody on Reddit who was super upset with me and defined me as problematic because I was walking with the groups of people, of Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, it was me, one person, and among a group of them. So I mean, I know that we're taught to always champion the Jehovah's Witnesses, right? And they're just little frail victims, it's like, persecution complex by proxy this person was projecting or whatever. And it's like, hey man, like, that's cool. I know you couldn't do it or whatever. Maybe it wouldn't feel good for you to do it. You would feel like you were bullying people or whatever. I didn't. There was more of them than there were me. Again, I only did that like once or twice. Then I was leading the groups down. I stood on the corners and everything. And then to the people who have a problem with the way I do it that way, did you have a problem when they were following me around? When they were walking and following me everywhere that I went? Was that still a problem or not? So anyway, just exercise some common sense if you're going to go out there and do this thing. And honestly, the Jehovah's Witnesses are going to do far worse probably than what you're going to do. And again, I wasn't talking to people. I wasn't confronting anyone. I was playing a message and walking. I was not threatening anyone in any way. And so, yeah, those are just some things to consider. Oh, and as far as what audio to use or whatever, I mean, you can figure that out on your own. I was using audio from people that I had rights to use, right? Because these are people that have been on my podcasts. And so I was just repurposing it for some of this, and I've reached out to people, and they were super excited to be included and to have their voice heard. But you can decide what it is that you would want to play out there. Audio quality matters in something like this. There were a few audio issues with some of the clips that I had tried to use at the very end. That I did make a new audio, trying to use some clips of some speakers, some Watchtower representatives, but and the audio was just kind of garbage. It wasn't loud enough. So you have to do some trial and error there. I only had my phone there when I made that audio clip, or that, I guess, collage of audio clips. So I didn't really have proper tools. But if I'd had my computer from home, I would have been able to edit that audio, adjust the levels, and made it louder. And so maybe, I don't know, maybe I'll even put something out there for people who want to do this based on at least the second audio clips. But you can decide what message you want to take. I mean, I know a lot of people, believe me, a lot of people let me know that they had the thing that would have been the message that would have would wake everybody up. And so, hey man, if you've got a message and you know that you can put it out there and this is the thing that's going to wake everybody up, well, first tell it to your family and tell us how that goes, because it's funny how everybody knows what's going to wake somebody up, but yet most people don't have their families out. So I don't know how we know these things, but go ahead, test things out. How are we ever going to know what works if we just do the same thing all the time? Never change, never adapt in any way, and if we don't try new things. So go forth, conquer, try new things. I'm really happy for you if you do. And I guess finally, I'll just kind of leave it on. So the shirt I'm wearing here is modeled after a concert t-shirt. says Jehovah's Witnesses blinded by the light. The very bottom, it says the New Light Tour 2024. And we've got some upside down and right side up little watchtower symbols here. And we've got lists of doctrinal changes that they have made and their flip-flops on different things. I guess I could update it now with the new August watchtower about their little ridiculous changes on shunning. Their changes, not changes on shunning. Anyway, if you like the shirt, or if you like any of the shirts that I wear, from the dubstep shirt to the heart shirt that has 20 words on it that explain what it's like to leave a cult in positive terms, and 20 words on it that explain what it's like to leave a cult in the struggle that is very real. And so I've got that shirt. I've also got the Shunned shirt. I've got a shirt that says dubstepped on it. Dubstepped, stepping away from Jehovah's Witnesses, the dubs. Those are different things that are on my Threadless store. I'll link that in the show notes. So, those things, if people buy them, they help to support the show a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. I get very little out of that. But anyway, these are just things that you can have, ways that you can participate as well. I just want to show people that these things can be done. It's very scary. I wouldn't advise people necessarily to always start there, but if that's something that you could start, a place you could start, maybe that would be easier for you than an XJW cart. Go do it. Knock yourself out. Go help somebody. Go make some PMOs. Know that they're not alone, and feel proud of yourself for going out there and speaking up. We spoke up for those fools for years, right? So go out and speak out for yourself. What better thing to speak out for yourself, for the XJW community, for all of the people who've been hurt by this thing. Let's not give it tacit approval. Let's show exactly how we feel about this thing. It's harmful. People need to know it. And I tried to let the people on the inside see some of the harm that they caused. So with that said, podcast is back on the schedule. I'll be having a new story next week. We'll just go from there. I'm going to have new episodes in between. We finished the gaslighting series. And so I've got some other things for you coming up. And I will see you around the YouTubes, or you can hear me in your ear holes on the podcasts. And I appreciate all of your support.